Amidst the chaos of the 7-day elemental wars that eliminated 3/4 of humanity, an orphan child was found on the battlefield and was rescued before starving away. However, his mind was already broken and he even lost the ability to say his own name. But although it was hard at first, the two girls began taking care of him as if he was their own child, slowly teaching him how to speak once again. So when he was finally able to say the word Ray, the blonde realized that he just said his name and then told him that her name was Lydia, making him repeat it after her. But when Carol asked him to say her name, he called her Dumb Pink, making Lydia laugh because he knew how to treat this worthless bitch. But they both saw him smiling for the first time since he came here. Even so, Lydia knew their time was going to end soon, since the generals wouldn't allow a child to live among soldiers. But when Carol found out, she began screaming that she could feed Ray and even take him on walks. However, when they asked Lydia what she wanted to do with him, she saw Ray was eavesdropping on them. So she asked him to decide his own future instead. In that moment, he held onto Lydia's hand, telling her that he wanted to stay by her side. Hearing those words, Lydia took him on as her apprentice, transferring her Iceblade Sorcerer divinity onto him. For the next 6 years, the military would exploit his broken powers to level entire fields, and Howard began training him to become the coldest super soldier in the world. He became a father to Ray and even swore that he would sacrifice his life for him. But during the final battle in the war, Howard was shot before his eyes, and the trauma of seeing his father dying again began breaking his mind. But when he turned around and saw Lydia's lifeless body, his innate ice god powers activated, releasing the forbidden overheat spell as a massive ice dome encapsulated the entire field. Although Lydia was only paralyzed, Ray visited Howard's grave that night, swearing that for as long as he lives, he'll never forget about his father. 10 years later, on his first day of attending Arnold Academy, some useless bitch with massive tits was saved from falling by Ray. And he apologized because it was his first day here. But when they realized he was supposed to be the new ordinary transfer student, she screamed in disgust as she passed out from touching him. Just then, a guy who looked like he was fighting an addiction nearly punched Ray's face for being an ordinary. But as he tried punching back, a girl screamed to stop. At that moment, she was Amelia Rose, the daughter to the highest of the 3 noble families. So after Al walked away with his lackeys, she congratulated Ray on becoming the first ordinary to attend their academy, promising that she would always protect him during his first class. Al's anger continued growing because an ordinary was among them, but the flashbacks of the war began filling Ray's mind until Miss Gray threw her chalk that exploded in his face, telling him to pay attention. She explained that in this world, sorcerers are ranked into 5 classes. However, only 7 grand sorcerers exist at any time. But the strongest among them, the hero of the Elemental War and the Iceblade Sorcerer, had vanished after defeating the entire eastern continent. As she kept speaking, Al wondered why a disgusting ordinary was among them when they were striving to become grand sorcerers. But although all of them agreed, Miss Gray screamed that only those who passed the exam were allowed to attend, regardless of their nobility status. For their first exercise, Gray revealed that there were 4 different categories of matter and went on to process the code of the world's data until she manifested a bouquet of crystal roses. These were the fundamentals of magic, but after erasing it away, a girl wondered if she used anti-material code. But Gray revealed that no one in the world was able to use anti-material magic. As she told the class to practice summoning the crystal roses, Amelia was able to use her powers to create an ice rose in her hand. However, Ray was only able to summon a small ice cube that was as worthless as his face, making Al swear that he'll bring an end to his worthless life. Once class was over, Ray followed the ugly chick into the library, telling her that he was also interested in Lydia's anti-material theories, and apologized for not introducing himself first. So after introducing herself back as Alyssa, she revealed that she had idolized Lydia throughout her life. So when Ray said that he also loved her from the bottom of his heart, Alyssa's excitement caused her hat to fall off. When she apologized for getting carried away, he wondered why she would hide away her beautiful hair. So she revealed that everyone's always bullied her for her half-elf years. However, Ray thought they made her even prettier than Aphrodite. But when she got flustered and thought that he was mature, he remembered Howard telling him those same words. By the time he got back to his dorm, his roommate had been waiting to meet him all day, revealing that his name was Evie Armstrong and that he wasn't like the other noble morons, as there was only one thing he believed in. As they shook hands, the power of their grip made both of them realize they were the same, so they threw off their clothes to show off their jega. Chad Bulk, glad to become muscle bras the following morning, was on his 30 miles run when the wind from his jaw nearly picked up a girl's skirt. So he ran back and apologized for not running faster. However, she thought it was incredible that he was able to run this fast in the morning and introduced herself as Rebecca Bradley. While walking to school, he revealed that Rebecca was the daughter of the second highest royal family, but told him to be careful around her Amelia. On his way to meet the principal of the school, another useless bitch ran into him. But this time she was flatter than a surfboard. So Ray apologized that she had nothing to cushion her collision. What did he say? However, he said that he was glad to meet a charming pigtailed lady, making her happy that he knew where to look. So she introduced herself as the girl who was loved by pigtails themselves, Clarice Cleveland. Although Ray hadn't ever heard that family name before, the Riz Lord said it must be a beautiful family from looking at her, and she thought they were going to be close friends before remembering that she had to run somewhere in the principal's office. He bowed down to Abby as she was his previous colonel, but she hoped he would enjoy his normal life here as she remembered all the times they used to spend together. By the time school was over, Ray prepared to duel against Al. And as soon as the match began, Ray parried his sword and forced it into the ground, finishing the match in that instant. However, as Al rushed back to eliminate Ray, he struck his sword at the exact angle it would take to destroy the wood, leaving Al to collapse onto the ground. And Abby was glad to see that the Iceblade Sorcerer was enjoying his student life. Later that night, after deep-throating each other's protein shakes, Ray revealed that he wanted to join 2 different clubs. But when Evie thought it would be impossible, Ray revealed that he had a secret plan. In the middle of an iron dungeon, a group of massive men were awaiting Ray's arrival. So Evie and the rest of the members asked him why he was worthy of joining their environmental research club. All of them thought he was scrawny and didn't have enough bulk, but when the leader commanded him to take his clothes off, Ray showed his ripped body and expanded to show the real extent of his bulk. One of them thought he was so huge he had to pay property taxes on those abs. So Ray revealed that he's trained in the backwood forests, showing off his gold hunter license, proving that he's one of the most powerful bulkers alive. So the leader invited him to become part of their research club, and all the men started screaming because their club was literally a mental asylum. A few minutes later, Ray entered a room filled with useless chicks, and Rebecca was their leader. So he revealed that he was interested in joining their flower planting club because even in the world's deadliest battlefields, he would be able to find a flower blooming. However, the ugliest bee among them thought that Ray was only joining to seduce Rebecca. So seeing how everyone was skeptical about him also being an ordinary, she decided to let Dana be the one to evaluate his worthiness on top of their roof. She revealed that his test was to clean this entire space within a week and wished him luck. But he thought that her ugly face needed the luck. During his first day, he began digging the weeds to clear the field, but Dina continued spying on him. Now that all the weeds were removed, Ray began mending the ground, and Evie wished he was the hoe getting plowed by Ray. But Alyssa wished he would plant his seed inside of her fertile soil. On the 3rd day, he began laying the cement in canals to create walls for the different types of flowers. All of the hard work was now done, but Rebecca came and gave him a strawberry cream pie, telling him that she negotiated with the school to have them since she was the student council president. Hearing those words, Ray thought that she was amazing, but she couldn't stop staring at his massive arms and asked him if she could touch them. So when he allowed her to grab them, she was amazed because it was the biggest and hardest man part she's ever held. As he told her that he trained in the backwood forests, Amelia stared at them. On the 4th day, Ray had finished the garden, so Dina reluctantly said that he passed and Rebecca welcomed him to their club. The following day at class, Professor Gray revealed that they would be having their practical exercise in the Kafka forest and that they needed to form parties of 4. Before then, however, Rose was worried that Ray would be alone. But as he remembered Abby's words telling him that a spy had infiltrated their school, he wondered what he should do. Just then, Evie asked to join his party. But when Ray said that he wasn't good with sorcery, Evie thought it was fine because his body would make any wand explode. As he looked around for who else would join their group, he came up to Alyssa and asked her to be with them. But when she thought she was as useless as a toaster, Ray said that she was the toaster he needed because he wanted to take a bath with her. After she agreed to join their group, Amelia wondered if they still had an opening, but Ray said that he was planning on filling her opening from the beginning. All the worthless losers were shocked, especially the one who just got back from rehab. Inside the forest, the teacher explained that they needed to reach the center of the forest within 24 hours while collecting as many stamps as possible from the monsters hiding within the woods. As the flare went off, Ray and his group began sprinting into the forest. But after a few hours of traveling, a monster nearly slashed Alyssa's head off before Ray saved her. So as they got in their battle stances, Ray rushed forward and slashed the bee in half with a single strike, allowing them to find their first stamp. By the time Matt arrived, Amelia wondered where he learned all of his survival knowledge and his broken sword skills, as she began wondering if he really learned all of those in Backwood Force. However, hearing those words reminded him that this forest was heaven compared to the battlefield he came from, and he wondered if it was really okay for him to enjoy his life when all of his comrades died. As all of them noticed his sadness, he lied, saying that he was just tired. A few hours later, as they slept, Ray stayed up to watch over them, remembering his master telling him to enjoy living a normal life at school and that he could always reveal the truth if he finds people that he can trust. The following morning, Ray heard a scream in the middle of the forest and started running off, using 40% of his speed to appear ordinary, until he approached an A-rank class monster that had ambushed Al. His entire useless squad was already tied down, but as Ray activated his innate code, he dodged the attacks faster than the capability of human reflexes, leaping to the sky to pierce the brain of the beast and killed it in that instant. As he put his blade away and asked Al if he needed help, the worthless bastard slapped his hand away, saying he had it under control. So Ray wondered if he learned some secret strategies during his AA meetings. Just then, Ray's group caught up to him. But as he asked Alyssa if she could free the useless morons, Amelia saw that Ray had defeated the monster with a single strike and wondered who he really was. From the shadows, a mysterious spy threw a dagger onto the monster, resurrecting it from the dead and evolving it into its ranked calamity beast. As it roared, the cheap prostitutes began screaming, but Ray was still determined to kill it. At the same time, another group of students were walking by. But when Clarice heard the monster's roar, she began peeking from behind a tree and realized that she has never seen any creature this massive before. Just then, Ray attacked the monster, but as he leaped back, he realized that it was unscathed and wondered how it was able to evolve after dying. As it attacked him, he managed to block its sharp claws. But as he tried to unleash his ice powers, a flaming wall burst out of the ground before him, forcing the monster to back away. At Amelia's command, Evie hurled a rock towards the creature, and as Alyssa propelled it with the wind, it knocked the monster in the belly. Before it could recover, Ray stabbed it with his sword and wouldn't release it until he sliced it in half, killing it instantly. So with the monster dead, the group decided to join him, and seeing them together made Ray remember his old teammates. Meanwhile, Clarice had watched everything and wondered how Ray was this powerful. At the same time, the mysterious spy was also watching him. And as he realized that Ray was special, he disappeared at that instant. Within a few hours, the group found the final checkpoint, and after taking the stamp, Amelia jumped on top of Alyssa and began grabbing her body. But Evie wondered if he was also able to carry them because of his backwood forest training. By the time the contest was over, the instructor announced that their group was the winner. But as Clarice cheered them on, she realized that all the students were angry to see Ray performing better than all of them. A few days later, Lydia had grown angry that she hadn't seen Ray in 2 months, but fixed herself up as soon as she heard that he was coming. When he came at the door, a hot maid called Carlo welcomed him inside, and Lydia realized that she's the one looking up to him these days. But Ray was glad that she didn't need to get on her knees anymore. As they began having breakfast, she told him that a powerful group had been abducting sorcery researchers, and that they were cutting open their brains to discover hidden sorcery. She said that they're called eugenics, and that they may try to lure him in, but warned him to never release his lock unless his life depended on it. A few hours later, while they were taking a walk through the forest, Lydia began wondering if Ray has made new friends. When he told her that he has made the greatest group of deranged morons, she told him to invite them over next time, thinking they must be really special to make him smile. After arriving at a tree, she told him that the magic sword fighting competition would soon begin, and after revealing that she's won it 4 times already, she asked him if he would enter. However, Ray wanted to stay out of it, to hide his powers and to cheer on his friends. Instead, as she took out a book from her massive milkers, she told him that it was adapted specifically for a student. But when he called her amazing, she begged him to keep calling her amazing while moaning. The next day, while on his morning marathon, Ray sprinted past Alyssa. But as her floodgates opened, he decided to stop and saw all the books inside her bag. When he wondered where she was headed, she told him that she intends to visit the library. So having nothing better to do, Ray asked if he could go with her. But her floodgates were destroyed in that instant, so after changing her clothes to hide the stain, Ray thought she was cute, and that he was jealous of her heart because it's pumping inside of her, while he's not. While inside the library, Ray helped her to pick out a book, and she told him that it was written by her favorite sorcery researcher, Dr. Ainsworth. But as they began to read, Ray discovered that Lydia's book was actually a book of pickup lines. And after leaving the library, he tried using some of the lines on Alyssa, but Clarice was spying on them from behind a pillar and wondered why he had abandoned her already. As she began wondering how she would get her man back, Ray appeared before her and asked her to join them for lunch. But when she wondered if he was asking her on a date, the Jigga Chad said that he was destroying her floodgates as well. While they ate, Ray went on to introduce Alyssa as his pinky toe because he usually bangs her on a coffee table at night. He then introduced Clarice as a girl so beautiful that she looks like a work of art, which is why he wants to nail her against a wall. God damn it. So they spent the afternoon eating lunch and spending time with Ray, and by the time it was over, the girls decided to ditch his ugly face. However, the best girl appeared at that moment, so he ran up to her and wondered why. She was dressed beautifully, but she revealed that it was because of the countless noble events she had to attend and she was getting tired of them. However, she apologized for venting to him, but he told her that it's better if she gets it off her chest, especially when her chest is that heavy and massive. He thought that even Venus couldn't compare to her beauty. But after he revealed that Clarice and Alyssa left a moment ago, Amelia grew jealous that he had fun with them, so she commanded him to go with her to the mall. Inside the store, she began trying different outfits and Ray began using all his Discord compliments, even speaking in English. I pricked my heart. However, when she began wondering why he was at ease with girls, he revealed that he's never thought about that before since he grew up in an environment with a lot of women. As she hurried back inside, she began wondering why his arms were so warm and wondered if she could reveal her secret to Ray someday. At the same time, Al was inside the forest. And as he began burning all the trees, he screamed that he would burn Ray's ugly face off of this world. The next day, Ray began stretching his muscles with the other bodybuilders. But once they were done, he arrived at the gardening club and Dina gave him a spare key to the club's room. She told him that the other club members had taken the day off and said he was in charge for the day. After entering inside, Ray realized the room was empty. No. Having noticed her plot armor, Ray began wondering if she likes bunnies, so a few minutes later he decided to apologize. But she told him that she usually wears grown-up plot armor and begged him to forget about it. After arriving on the rooftop, Rebecca began showing him the flowers that she wanted to plant. But when he wondered if she was upset, she said that she was just glad to have someone to talk to. After all, none of the other members would spend time with her as she was from one of the 3 noble families. So she was glad to have him in their club since he's the only one she could talk to. A few minutes later, Al wondered if there was anyone from the 3rd noble family in Arnold Academy, but she revealed that the Aldrins had only attended the Diam Academy. Their daughter would be competing in the Magic Chevalier contest and was the only one who could match Amelia's skills. The following day, as Amelia was dueling the chief escort, the instructor revealed that only the winners of each duel would be chosen for the sword fighting contest. So after Amelia smacked the girl's wooden sword away, she was declared the winner. But she decided to challenge Ray to a duel. As they faced off against one another, the instructor began the match. So Amelia charged forward. But as he managed to parry her attacks, he realized that she was faster than him and decided to leap away. She began saying that he's a mysterious man and wondered why he was so good at handling his wooden and wanted to feel him slapping her with his sword. So as she attacked again, striking his wood with every strength in her body. Eager to land a hit, Howard's training flashed across his mind, and as he parried her sword, Amelia realized it was over for her. However, as Ray's powers shocked his mind, the sword slipped out of his hand, making him fall to his knees. At that instant, everyone was shocked at the sight, but the instructor announced Amelia as the winner. However, Amelia thought he intentionally lost, and when she remembered his last move, she began wondering who he really was. Later that day, while the group was having lunch, Ebby began wondering how Ray learned to use a sword. So he revealed that he once had a master and said that she taught him everything from sorcery to sword skills. Just then, Al appeared at his table, and as he slammed his hand onto it, he decided to challenge Ray to a duel. Before long had gathered outside the forest, and Amelia noticed a barrier was covering the entire area. She thought Al must have cast it to keep the duel a secret. But as Al gave Ray a sword, he said they could even use sorcery. But as he charged at Ray, he dived out of the way, drawing his sword immediately. But as Al vowed to end him, a purple aura began oozing from his body, and as he attacked again, Ray leaped away easily. However, Al grew very angry and summoned a fireball to annihilate Ray, because ever since he was born, his useless parents were humiliated for being in the lower echelons of the middle tier and were ignored by every other nobles. This humiliation had awakened his desire to raise his family's name and become a grand sorcerer. And for this reason, he thought Ray was too useless to have deserved a spot in the school. So as his inner voice told him to kill him, he launched fireballs, but Ray dodged them easily. However, as he realized that his friends were in danger of getting hit, he sliced the fireball with a clean strike, causing it to disintegrate. The sight left everyone shocked, but as Al unleashed a mighty flame around him, Ray began running through it. And even as the ugly loser launched fireballs, he dodged all of them before dispersing the last one. With his impressive ability, Al thought he must certainly be a noble, but Ray said he's an ordinary and told him that he's just too weak. Hearing those words, Al's anger grew even worse and he summoned a large fireball. But as he unleashed the flaming dragon, Ray sliced it in half until it dispersed. The sight of it shattered Al's weak, ugly soul, and he fell on his knees before screaming at the top of his lungs. As Ray returned to his friends, Amelia told him to reveal the truth now. But before he could say a word, a magical force field pinned them to the ground and the spy emerged from the forests. As she began saying that they would become living sacrifices, she cast off the veil and Ray realized it was Miss Gray. Determined to defeat her anyway, he began to approach her, and realizing she belongs to the eugenics, he told her that he would protect all his friends. Just then, she decided to reveal her sorcerer's eye. And Ray realized that she was the one who evolved the monster in Kaka Forest. The teacher told him that she's already cast a barrier over this area and was glad to have the greatest minds in the academy all in one place, because their brains would be the perfect sacrifice for the eugenics. Looking to stop her, Ray pointed his sword, but she leaped back instantly and unleashed fire snakes. But Ray managed to dodge them. As he began running towards her, she decided to direct the flames towards his friends. As time began slowing down, Ray remembered Lydia telling him that he would need to know when to make the call. So Ray released his Chronos Lock, casting a wall of ice that repelled the flame. At that moment, a cold aura began oozing from his body, and after apologizing to his master, he stretched forth his hand, summoning icicle blades. At that instant, at the sight of it, the teacher thought it was impossible since the Iceblade Sorcerer vanished after the war. But he revealed that the title was passed on to him. Desperate to end him anyway, she launched a huge fireball, but dispersed it with a single sword. However, as the teacher decided to unleash causality, Draco Ray activated Anti-Material Code, dispelling it instantly. Although Ray thought Anti-Material Code never existed, Ray began walking towards her, swearing to reveal the true extent of his own power. But as she grew afraid, she launched fireballs that dispelled instantly. As she began running away, Ray cast his swords towards her and pierced her ankle, making her fall flat on the ground. Afraid he would eliminate her, she started begging for her life. But as she realized he was about to spare her, she caused a flame to burst out of the ground. But Ray was unscathed by the attack. She thought he must be a monster and decided to rip off her necklace, revealing that it was actually a syringe. As she was about to activate the Dark Triad system, she pierced her brain at that instant. Just then, she began transforming into a monster, saying that it was the power she managed to awaken from her lifelong research in sorcery. At that moment, the barrier began to dissolve and the spell dispersed from the others. As Ray and Miss Gray clashed, he managed to knock her down, but as she caused flames to surround him, he dispersed them instantly. Just then, he summoned his icicle blades again, and the teacher began wondering why she couldn't land any hits. So he told her that his powers were from inside of his body. However, as she launched a giant fireball, Ray activated deceleration to slow it down, and using lock registration, he caused it to disperse instantly. He told her that his ice sorcery could utilize deceleration, and with his ability to use anti-material code, he could reverse code theory itself and successfully repel all of her attacks, returning them to Primon material. This was the true nature of the Iceblade Sorcery, and raising his sword, he activated Material Shift, directing it towards the teacher. However, as she decided to unleash her full powers, she awakened Mind Infiltration Sorcery. But Ray continued slashing it and even launched icicle blades into it. At that moment, his powers began to overheat and the ice started spreading across his entire body, but he managed to repel the teacher's attacks. However, she had discovered that he wasn't in control of his powers and thought she could annihilate him. So as she attacked again, she managed to destroy his blade, but as she thought it was all over for him, he activated Ice Blue Profusion, turning the ice particles into a freezing tornado and trapping her inside a frozen cone. Having grown exhausted, Ray felt at his knees, and as he decelerated his powers, he activated Chronos Lock to seal it. At that moment, he noticed his friends running towards him, and as he was glad that he managed to protect them, he passed out. At that instant, in his memories, he remembered seeing Howard walking away, telling him to keep on living, and said that he would be watching him from heaven. Just then, Ray regained consciousness and realized that Lydia was waiting by his side. Thinking she would be disappointed, he apologized for releasing his Chronos Lock. However, she was proud of him because he used his powers to protect his friends and thought one day he would recover from the war and wouldn't even need to activate Chronos Lock. Realizing his friends were nowhere in sight, Ray began wondering if they were attacked while he was unconscious, but Abby told him that they were recovering from magical energy deficiency. However, as Lydia decided to leave, Carla's hot maid Milkers revealed that Lydia was very worried about him before leaving as well. Once they were gone, Abby began telling Ray that she originally had no desire of admitting him at the school, having thought he needed to recover from his traumatic life in war. But Lydia begged her into admitting him, saying that he needs to experience a normal life outside. Lydia began screaming as she cried, glad that Ray was still alive. Abby revealed that Lydia's final wish for him was to enjoy his life at school and to find his own happiness. After she left, his friends visited him inside the room, and Ray decided to apologize for hiding his secret from them. He told them that he's one of the 7 Grand Sorcerers, the Iceblade Sorcerer. He had overheated in the final battle by losing control of his engram and had completely frozen the entire field. By the time he woke up, everything around him had turned into a wasteland, but Lydia had managed to stop him from consuming his own life. Even now, he's spellbound by Chrono's lock to keep his powers from overheating. So as they heard those words, they realized that his magic was only weak because it was locked away. However, he felt guilty for hiding his blood-soaked past and deceiving them, saying that his hands were stained with blood from the war and wondered if he had the right to even be near them. As he apologized, Amelia held his hand, telling him that she wants him to be here because no matter what happened in his past, she believed in the extremely kind person he was now. At the same time, Iggy said he's an amazing person and was his muscle daddy, and no past would ever change that. Alyssa said that she wanted to be his friend forever, and Clarice thought it was pointless for him to be worrying about any of this, since they'll always be friends. So as Amelia hugged him, she said she would never leave his side and that he'll never be alone. At that moment, the memories of Ray's comrades returned to his mind. So he thanked his friends for being by his side at night. While everyone was gone, Al sneaked into the room. But Ray had already been waiting for him when he wondered why he came. Al told him that he was here to apologize as he had done things he could never take back. However, Ray said that he forgives him, as he thought it was admirable of him to have realized his wrongdoing and to sincerely apologize. Hearing how Ray had already forgiven him, Al realized that hating people could have never made him grow stronger, but that he should have been accepting people for who they were. That night, Amelia realized that she would never be anything like Ray and would never amount to anything, as if she was a bird in a cage. However, she wondered how Ray wasn't flustered by her massive plot or if he was into flatboards more the following morning. Abby revealed that Miss Gray had left them. So the hottest girl in all of Annam introduced herself as their new teacher, Caroline. However, Ray thought he was in a nightmare, but Carol was excited to work with all of them. As she began to explain the magic sword fighting tournament, she revealed that among the 16 contestants from 3 different academies, they would be allowed to enter 6 students instead of 5, since they won last year. She was counting on them and winked at Ray, but the poor man couldn't believe he just climaxed. However, when class was over, Ray burst into Abby's office demanding that Carol gets fired since she was the only woman he couldn't handle. Not only does she make his anger explode, but she also makes other things explode and is her hand rubbed on his back. Ray climaxed at that moment but hurried into a corner before they would notice his new explosion. The following day, as the contest began, Amelia defeated her opponent in only a few seconds. But while she was leaving, Ray noticed that she was disappointed at her victory but wondered what she was worried about. A few days ago, Amelia's father had reminded her about her duties as the first daughter of the leader of the 3 great houses and told her that she's expected to win the sword fighting contest and to defeat her greatest rival, Ariane. The fear of losing to her had made Amelia worried, and when Rebecca told Ray that Ariane has been chosen as a representative of her own school, Ray realized she must be good at handling swords. The following day, after Amelia defeated an ugly loser, the instructor announced that she had won all her fights and has secured a spot for the Magic Chevalier contest. Her friends were excited at the news and soon realized that Al qualified as second place. However, as Amelia began to leave, she thought she couldn't afford to lose, realizing her father would be disappointed at her. But Ray knew something was off. So while Evie's hot body was sleeping, he stayed up all night thinking about Lydia's book. During the following day's sunrise, Ray appeared before Amelia. But after congratulating her for making it to the qualifiers, he knew that she was doubting whether she was enough for the battle. So with the tournament only a month away, he offered to train her and revealed his book, saying it would be the foundation for their training. Excited to know that she'd be training like Ray, Amelia accepted immediately. So he told her that the training would make her stronger if she survives until the end. That night, she dreamt about the day she met Ariane and how she ran away with her to the balcony where she shared her food with her. Throughout the years, they became each other's closest friends, and during one sunset, Amelia thanked her for always playing with her. However, Ariane thought she was the one who was lucky to have Amelia by her side and hugged onto Amelia, asking her to be friends forever. But after Amelia promised that they would stay friends, the day of their mock battle had arrived, and when Amelia launched forward, Ariane dodged her blow and parried away her sword. But as she extended her hand to help her up, Amelia stood up and walked away, never to say a word to her ever again. All this time, being a noble had started to consume her, so she believed that in order to survive, she would need to win. When she arrived the following morning, Ray landed before her with a rip-off Power Ranger mask. As he introduced himself as Master White, he told her that he's her new instructor and commanded her to call him her ranger. For their first drill, he told her that she must run the length of the Kafka forest without using any body enhancement sorcery. So as they began to run, he told her to only rely on her physical strength. But by the time the run was over, Amelia was completely exhausted. However, he called it an easy first day training and said it would only get worse from here. But all through that day, Amelia slept off on the desk, and when Evie wondered what happened to her, Alyssa revealed this was part of Ray's training. He would make her do pull-ups with weights attached to her legs and even push-ups with stones tied to her back. However, as she pushed a boulder up the mountain, she nearly eyes-cut her miserable life and realized that she was completely drained at night. Inside of her mind, she began imagining Ariane running away from her. But after falling onto the ground, Alyssa had picked her up and shoved her into her massive cannons. And from her right, Clarice held her hand while wearing a bunny girl outfit. However, Rhea started sprinting towards her, screaming her name, but she woke up seeing that the deranged moron was banging outside her window saying, "I didn't get no sleep cause of y'all. Y'all not gone get no sleep cause of me." After falling onto the ground, Rebecca and Dina appeared before Ray, and Dina wondered why his disgusting face was hanging around the girls' dorm looking like a homeless crackhead. However, Ray revealed that he was doing the Ainsworth-style wake-up call to summon Amelia. Right then, he spotted her while she was trying to sneak away and decided to run after her. However, as she managed to escape, he began wondering where she was hiding, and after noticing Al, he decided to ask where his ugly squad of losers are. But Al told him that he was trying his hardest to fight withdrawals. Before long, Ray decided to scan the entire school and eventually discovered her position. Meanwhile, Amelia was hiding under a desk, having already grown sick of the training. But as Ray sneaked up on her, he told her that he had activated his powers just to find her, but she claimed that she was just meditating. However, as he began dragging her away to restart the training, Amelia realized she's definitely screwed. That same night, he requested for the Environmental Science Club to become Amelia's cheer squad, believing that they would be able to become the loudest cheerleaders with their impressive bulk. Hearing those words, Ebby thought there's nothing better to do with their lives, and all the mentally ill morons finally found a way to scream like schizophrenics without society judging them. The next morning, he woke up after hearing a girl closing his door, but decided not to investigate it. At the same time, Amelia had begun running on her own, and Alyssa told her that she has broken her previous record. At that moment, a random girl began walking by saying that Amelia was impressive, but they wondered who she was. However, Ray was glad that he managed to stay unnoticeable and hoped that his plans would work out perfectly. Later that day, after sneaking into Arnold Academy, he decided to hide inside a cardboard box. But after noticing a useless, ugly girl crying for her sister, he popped out of the box, thinking he may have found the perfect cover for entering the school. When he asked why she was crying, she told him that she couldn't find her sister. So as he offered to help her look for her, he introduced himself as Lily. As the girl told him that her name is Tiana Algren, Ray realized she was Ariane's sister. While they were walking through the school, all the students began wondering who the hot chick was, realizing he was definitely not one of them. But at that moment, Tiana spotted her sister sitting in a shed. So after Ray found his way to her table, she thanked him for leading her sister to her and introduced herself as Ariane. However, she already realized that she wasn't a student of their school and demanded to know who she really was. Ray told her that he's from Arnold Academy, but as Ariane began wondering how he managed to change his voice and muscular structures, he told her that he did so with inside code and sorcery. At that moment, she realized she's already heard rumors about him and thought he must be ordinary. But as she decided to ask how she could repay his help, he decided to challenge her to a friendly duel. So a few minutes later, as they faced off for a simulation battle, Ray hoped to discover her full abilities. As she rushed at him trying to knock off his wooden sword, Ray noticed she was fast, and as she made a graceful spin, they clashed their blades once again. But as she pretended to pick up an item, she unleashed lightning towards the sky, sending Ray's broken sword flying away. As he was impressed with her skill, Ray told her that she's strong. So after leaving the school courtyard, she decided to ask if he would be entering the contest. However, he told her that he wasn't and told her that Amelia would defeat her at the sword fighting tournament. On his way back to school, he saw a hot white-haired chick running away. But as she tripped and fell, he dashed to save her from falling. In that moment, the girl thought that she fell in love. But as Ray put her back up, he told her to be careful because although roses were red, her hair was white. So he wanted to bend her over and split her legs open at night. But as he was about to walk away, the girl asked him for her name. So Ray introduced himself as Lily, and the girl introduced herself as Maria Bradley. He realized that she must be Rebecca's sister, but Maria said that she no longer has any doubts about attending their school and begged her to wait until next year before running away. Meanwhile, at Arnold Academy, Amelia was exhausted from another day's training. But as Ray appeared on the wall congratulating her on her hard work, the girls noticed a random girl standing before them. When they began wondering how she was speaking in Ray's voice, Ray revealed that it was actually him, but the shock from the realization made the girls open their floodgates. A few days later, they arrived at Lydia's home. But when she began wondering if Ray has grown taller this time, he told her to worry about her weak and worthless legs. As he decided to introduce his friends, Lydia was happy to meet them and even agreed to sign Alyssa's book after the girl discovered she's her favorite sorcery researcher. However, as she decided to speak with Amelia in a private room, Carla invited Ray into the kitchen. Inside, she began telling him that another secret group called the Grim Reapers have been plotting an attack. She thought they intend to attack during the sword fighting tournament, so Ray promised to watch over his friends. Meanwhile, in the room, Lydia began asking to know what Amelia was worried about, telling her that Ray has been worried about her and that he's been sending a ton of letters, wondering how he could make her happy. She knew that she was hiding away her talent. And although Lydia thought that she was able to teach him everything, she was never able to teach him the human heart. He was a broken child when they first found him. And since soldiers were the only thing that surrounded him his entire life, she was glad that for the first time he had real friends around him. She told Amelia that Ray was worried about her and thought that if she really wanted to change her life, she would need to trust her friends and that she could trust Ray. After she was done, she told all of them to change into their swimsuits as they would all go swimming that night. Evie thanked him for inviting him to meet his master. But although Ray wished that Abby hadn't showed up with Carol, Evie thought it was worth experiencing the greatest climax in his life. Because although all of the girls had arrived at the pool and Clarice was jealous of Alyssa's massive cannons, Carol had shown up wasted at the party, so she activated her spell to release everyone's swimsuits. The next day, Amelia began her running drills and Ray thought she's definitely grown stronger. So after they entered into the forest, he drew his sword and told her to cut the rose on his chest. Noticing her doubt, he told her that he believes in her strength. So she decided to draw her sword as she charged at him. A few days later, as the sword fighting tournament was about to begin, Abby announced the official start. Inside the arena tunnel, Ariane appeared before Amelia and offered her hand, saying she would be waiting to face her in the finals. As Amelia wondered if she could defeat her, she decided to shake her hand anyway. At the semifinal, Amelia faced off with a weak, ugly loser, and Abby began saying that the only way to defeat their opponent was to knock them out or to destroy the rose on their chests. So as she commanded them to begin, the loser charged at Amelia. But as she swung his blade to slice her up, she jumped over to the other side. When he tried to charge again, a little flame burst out of the ground, burning his rose to ashes as Abby declared Amelia the winner. When the match began, Amelia had buried an activated sorcery skill in the ground. And after baiting the loser to the precise spot, the timing of her buried sorcery had activated. At the same time as Ray decided to leave the arena, he met Al inside a room and told him that it was his turn to fight. So as Al took the rose from him, he began heading towards the arena floor. His opponent was Ariane. So as Abby commanded the fight to begin, they rushed at each other and began clashing swords. But Ariane managed to repel him with her sorcery, sending Al falling hard on the ground. However, when she told him to surrender, he remembered Ree's words, who had said that admitting his weakness was the only way to grow stronger. So he told her that he would never give up. As he charged at her this time, he managed to send her sword flying. But as he began thinking he would win, she awakened her sorcery and captured his blade. While he was still shocked by her incredible power, she snapped it in half and rammed him with a blow that sent him flying outside the podium. As Ariane was declared the winner, Al noticed that the sky was beautiful, but Amelia wondered how in the hell she would defeat Ariane. At the same time, Ray was patrolling the arena tunnel, but a mysterious creature managed to hide away from him. However, as a ghost shadow sneaked up on him, it mysteriously vanished and the environmental club captain emerged from the darkness. His name was Lex, and as he led him into a private meeting, Ray realized that the ladies had been waiting. However, when he noticed the masked men around them, he began wondering who they are. So Carla revealed that they are from the Hale family and said that their bloodline was in charge of the kingdom's intelligence agency. So at the same time, Carla told him that Lex was her brother. As Abby began saying that the Grim Reapers have infiltrated the tournament, she said they intend to abduct the daughters of top noble houses for this purpose. She warned Ray to stay on the alert, and Lex promised to offer him support when the enemies appear. That night, while Ray was looking out the window, he realized that he must protect Amelia from the danger and vowed to stop the Grim Reapers from interfering with the tournament. But at the same time, Amelia was sad in her room and was worried that she couldn't defeat Ariane. The next day, as Alyssa and Clarice arrived in the arena, they revealed that Amelia was too terrified to show up and that they were worried she was starting to doubt herself. At that moment, they discovered that a dude won his duel within 2 seconds, breaking the record for the quickest victory in history. But as he began to leave, he noticed Ray, and as the entire arena grew silent, Ray thought he was no ordinary student. At night, while Ariane was training, she kicked a punch bag and followed with a blow. And as she planted her foot into the floorboards, she landed a punch that forced it to explode. At that moment, her father arrived and began saying he was proud to see her kicking a defenseless back as he hoped she would kick Amelia just as hard. Ariane told him that she would win. Meanwhile, Ray was training in his underwear with Evie because they were straight. But when Evie noticed that Ray was spaced out, he told him to go see her. So as Ray had arrived at the girls' dormitory to see Amelia, he announced himself, telling her to listen to his words because when he first met her, he was afraid of drawing closer to her heart. So he kept running away from it. However, he wanted to know what she was burying away and that he was ready to touch her heart. As he let out those words, she opened her door to see him inside her room. She began telling him that she's hopeless and said her entire life has been to play everyone's expectations. She's tried and tried her entire life, but compared to Ray, she felt like it was all worthless. However, Ray began telling her that there wasn't a point in comparing people's pasts, saying that he knew that she was trying hard. But even so, Amelia thought her only chance of becoming someone was to win her duel. There was no chance of beating Ariane, Amelia thought, no matter how long time passed, and wondered why she was alive if she could never catch up to her. As she asked Ray what the meaning of her life was, Ray told her that being alive had no meaning but grabbed her, telling her their reason to live was something they could create between one another. Sharing her happiness, sorrow, crying, and laughing with her friends is what gave meaning to their lives. So he got on his knee, telling her that he wanted to spend his entire life with her. All through the night, she held his hand and would not allow him to leave. So he stayed by her side, remembering how they sparred in the forest. It was when he jumped to end her, she had awakened her butterfly sorcery, burning his rose instantly and even caused his mask to shatter. This desperate act made Ray believe that she could defeat anyone, and he told her that he believes in her. The following day, as Ray arrived in the arena, Alyssa decided to ask if Amelia had recovered. But when he told her that she has and said he spent the entire night in her room, they thought they must have developed plot all through the night. When he headed off into the tunnel, EU thought that Ray had become a real man, but wished he was the one who got to feel that muscular, veiny arm. I meant muscular, veiny arm. Before long, Ray found Amelia inside her room and she hugged him for good luck. But after she went into the arena, Lex appeared behind Ray, telling him that 8 students have been abducted and revealed that Clarus was one of them. So as Ray heard these words, he told him that he would search the underground. At the same time, Amelia and Ariane were facing off. And as Ariane told her to surrender, Amelia vowed to defeat her. Confident she would win, Ariane flung her sword and awakened her lightning sorcery. But as she launched the blade at Amelia, she teleported behind her, landing a punch that sent her flying yards away. However, as Amelia managed to stand, Ariane flashed towards her, landing another blow that nearly forced her out of the podium. But as she jumped to deliver the finishing blow, Amelia awakened her butterfly sorcery, overwhelming Ariane in the explosion. However, she managed to withdraw unscathed, but Amelia told her that she would never lose to her. Meanwhile, Ray was running around the underground, and as he spotted the abducted students, he decided to wake up Clarus. But at that moment, they noticed an interference barrier, and Ray told Clarus that the enemies were trying to trap them here. As he discovered they are surrounded, he thought they must be the Grim Reapers. So as he carried her on his shoulder, he began running away. Right then, he activated Chronos' lock and summoned his icicle blades. But as he began fighting off the enemies, Clarus thought she was on a roller coaster. But with a snap, they caused darkness to surround them. So recast an anti-material field that destroyed their spell and even canceled Amelia's butterflies at the same time. The enemies tried to withdraw, but Ray stabbed the ground, trapping them in ice and freezing them instantly. As Lex arrived at that moment, Ray told him that they were not dead and began running towards the arena floor. Meanwhile, Amelia and Ariane were already exhausted, but Ariane told her that she was ready to reveal her greatest sorcery. Realizing her power had increased, Amelia tried directing her butterflies towards her. But Ariane swooshed out of the way, and just as Amelia noticed she was behind her, Ariane knocked her away with a blow, but she managed to regain her balance in an instant. Ariane flashed behind her, dodging all of her butterflies and landing a powerful blow that sent her flying 25 feet high, leaving everyone shocked. Even so, Amelia wouldn't surrender and tried to get back up, but realized that every bone in her body was already weak. She thought she was going to lose, but the memories of her friends began flashing across her mind, along with Ray's words that he'll stay by her side forever. She told Ariane that she could never reach her anymore, activating her butterfly effect. As Ariane flashed towards her and was about to land a blow, Amelia disappeared before her eyes, nearly making her stumble off. However, as she regained her balance, she spotted Amelia before her eyes and tried to attack again, but was easily repelled. Amelia began saying that she couldn't touch her, and Ray realized that her sorcery was a concept interference, a special technique that was only awakened in less than 0.001% of all humans. By manipulating causality, Amelia could override Ariane's attacks right before it happens, making her invincible to any physical attack. Realizing Ariane was growing exhausted, Amelia told her to surrender, but she said she would never quit as she attacked. This time, Amelia reactivated her butterfly effect, parrying her entire body as a butterfly exploded before her eyes. But at that moment, Amelia noticed her nose was bleeding. As her body was getting overwhelmed by the sorcery, Ray thought she was starting to overheat, but Amelia was determined not to lose. However, Ariane revealed that she had no desire to lose either, and they charged at each other. But as another butterfly exploded, Ariane managed to nail a kick. But as Amelia tried burning her face off, she realized that Ariane managed to shield her attack. As they fought the same attacks, they tried to headbutt each other, but they were barely able to stand. By the time Ariane regained consciousness, she realized that Amelia had won the fight. But Amelia was happy to see her alive. Ariane told her that she had grown stronger, but Amelia said she's only managed to get better because she was desperate to reach her level. Throughout the years, as Ariane decided to confess that she strived to become a perfect aristocrat so she could lead her lifelong friend by example, Amelia realized she was struggling all this time as well for her sake. So she decided to hug her. And Amelia remembered that she had hugged her in the same way when they were younger. The memory brought tears to her eyes, and Ariane congratulated her for winning the fight, saying she's the true champion. At that moment, Dina announced that Amelia was the winner, and as Ariane raised her hand, Amelia's worthless father decided to applaud them. Later that day, as Ray visited Amelia in the sick ward, she remembered his promise to stay by her side forever and began saying that she likes him but wasn't thinking about becoming his girl or anything like that. Bet soon, Baka, you don't find that suspicious. When she wondered if he had already discovered she has inner powers, he told her that he only sensed a tremendous energy inside of her during their training. He was glad that her training had paid off and said it was proof that she's been working hard to push her body to its limits. Congratulating her for her victory, he decided to shake her hand, and Amelia was glad to have known him. Realizing that his support helped her to unlock her hidden powers and to accept the burden that comes with her noble position. The following day, as Dina announced the start of the final duel, Rebecca and the mysterious dude faced off. His name was Lucas. But as Rebecca activated her golden eyes, she readied herself for the fight. However, Lucas took a step, and as he activated his 8 secret technique, casting darkness all around her, he sliced her rose before she even knew it, ending the fight with an afterglow blackout. The sight stunned everyone in the entire arena, and as he sheathed his sword, they realized the fight had ended as soon as it began. As Dana announced he was the champion, Lucas began to leave immediately. However, when he met Ray in the tunnel, Ray began wondering why he entered the contest, realizing he was the peerless blade sorcerer and that he has no place competing in a student's tournament. However, Lucas told him that he intentionally entered to reveal himself and said he wants to fight him in the next tournament to prove that the peerless blade is stronger than the Iceblade Sorcerer. He hoped that Ray would be fully recovered before their fight and suggested he cures his overheating before the next tournament. Meanwhile, in the underground, Abby led the ladies into a secret room, revealing the captured Grim Reapers. So as Carol called for their attention, she snapped her fingers, trapping them in a seduction spell. As she began to command them, they followed all her directions, and Abby thought her spellbinding sorcerer powers were disgusting. However, Carol commanded them to reveal all their plans and secrets, saying she'd let them do anything they wanted to her body. I would literally do anything to become one of her victims. Stop it. Get some help. Hearing those words, their brains were one of the 2 things that exploded, and Abby realized that the enemies must have anticipated this. A few days later, after the tournament, Ray suggested that the class run a maid cafe for the cultural festival. But as the students thought he must have lost his mind, they began to remind him that they are nobles and said they couldn't pretend to be maids. The previous day, Amelia asked Ray to convince the class to create a maid cafe for their cultural festival, saying that a maid was the epitome of loyalty, and they even have expressions of a caring goddess with regal elegance. Hearing those words, he remembered Carla's maid milkers and thought it was true, but Amelia wanted them to be maids with even shorter skirts. This bitch gets it. So, as he thought her plan was perfect, he began telling the students that the maids' outfits would be revolutionary for their school. At that moment, Carol thought they would all look cute in maid outfits. Not gonna lie, it'd be hard. Not gonna lie, I just got it. Bro, I'm not gonna lie. After they had agreed, Ray told Amelia that her plan worked out perfectly. But as Dina arrived at that moment, she told them that Rebecca must have been hypnotized by a love spell because she was now engaged to a random dude. A few days ago, a man had signed a blood contract with Rebecca's father, promising to protect her from any threat. But at the same time, a giant was draining the life force of a man. When he was done, he decided to dump the body. But as a mysterious sorcerer arrived at that moment, he revealed that he came to take the brain. He also intended to capture Rebecca, having discovered she was the perfect vessel to awaken an ancient demon. The following day at school, as Ray appeared before Rebecca, he decided to congratulate her on her engagement. But when he held her hand, he noticed that she was afraid. A few hours later, when Ray arrived at the class, he realized that the boys were setting up a nice cafe, and Al told him that his desire to see the girls in maid outfits has rubbed off on them. Evie told Ray that he's got good eyes for the future, saying that his desire has united all the boys. And Al told Ray that there wasn't a man on Earth who didn't like maids. A few minutes later, when Ray arrived at the gardening club, he noticed that the other members were absent and began wondering where they were. Deciding to reveal the truth, Dina told him that they had quit their positions, and Rebecca revealed that they left because of her engagement. Her new fiancé was originally engaged to another member of the club, and the news of taking the girl's place as the new love interest had made everyone think she's a betrayer. Hearing these words, Ray realized that Rebecca and Dina must be getting overworked, so he offered to support them. And as Rebecca realized that he would come in handy, she accepted his help immediately. However, as Ray was leaving, Dina hurried to him and began telling him that Rebecca's engagement was strange after all. Rebecca appeared as if she was trying to protect a secret, and with her fiancé not being a member of the top 3 houses, she was worried that Rebecca could be in danger. So when she asked him to watch over her, Ray agreed, promising to protect her. That night in Lydia's home, Ray decided to ask if they discovered any secrets about Rebecca's engagement. So as Lydia thought it was truly suspicious, she told Carla to investigate the truth. While Ray was about to leave, Lydia decided to ask what his friends intend to do for their cultural festival. When Ray told her that they intend to set up a maid cafe, Lydia began wondering who would be interested in that kind of thing. However, Ray decided to repeat Al's words and told her that not a single life form could deny a maid's beauty. So when Lydia asked him if he was one of them, he told her that he was revealing that he loves Carla's outfit too. Crushing Lydia's mind, he said that when Amelia had first suggested they use a maid cafe for the cultural festival, his thoughts had drifted off to Carla's hot body, making him realize that having maids was the perfect suggestion. Hearing these words, Lydia thought she could also put on a maid outfit and look even hotter while in her wheelchair. Rhea apologized immediately, afraid she would turn him to an ice statue. Meanwhile, in the girls' dormitory, Rebecca was in the showers, and Ray's memories of the Far East War was flashing through her mind. She wondered why she was having his memories, but decided to head into her room. As she opened her sorcerer's eyes, she began wondering what was happening to her. But her sister appeared at that moment as she noticed that Rebecca was bleeding. Maria demanded to know what happened to her, but Rebecca told her to go back to sleep, saying she would recover on her own. However, when she entered her room, she grew very sad and began to cry. The following day, as the girls dressed up in their maid outfits, Amelia appeared before Rady. So when he saw her hot body, he told her that she just turned the 26 bones in his body into 27. Just then, Amelia revealed Alyssa. And as Ray began saying he can give her a broomstick to grab onto, Amelia hit him with a punch, saying she wasn't willing to share him. As Clarice materialized behind him, she told them that her class are doing a haunted mansion for the festival. She thought she looks ugly and could easily be taken as a real-life ghost, but Ray told her she's far uglier than that emotional damage. Although he thought this was already a perfect maid cafe, he knew that he could still push it even further. Later that day, Ray decided to escort Rebecca home, and she told him that she would be moving out of the dormitory once the festival was over, seeing as she needed to prepare for her new role as a wife. Right then, her fiancé appeared before her. His name was Evan, and as he thanked Ray for serving as her escort, he decided to lead her home. However, while Ray was watching them leave, he remembered Dina's earlier words, who had told him that Amelia was in danger. But Lex appeared before his eyes. Before long, they arrived at a private meeting, and Carla revealed that Evan was holding Rebecca inside an abandoned home. Lydia thought he was after Rebecca's sorcerer's eyes, and as they thought she was correct, Abby told them that he must be one of the eugenics. At the same time, a mysterious sorcerer appeared from the darkness, and as he announced that the gates to Akasha would be open once Rebecca awakens. As Cruz, he decided to take off his mask, revealing that he's actually Evan. However, a few hours ago, when he had tried to remove Rebecca's eyes, she smacked his hand away. But he began telling her that her father had signed a contract with him, trading her eyes for a position at the top of the 3 great houses. He told her that resisting was useless and said that her sister would be sacrificed in her place. As Rebecca began to cry, she realized that she had teleported into the past and was inside a battlefield. At that moment, she spotted Ray and realized that he was trying to resurrect Howard. However, Lydia had smacked his face to snap him out of his delusions, reminding him that they are on a battlefield before leading him away. The next day at school, as the memory flashed across, she began wondering if Ray was the kid in her vision. That day in the garden, Ray came across Maria, and as she introduced herself as Rebecca's sister. However, she didn't care about his risen liquid that was as white as her hair and told him that she only came to talk about her sister because she's worried about her. Noticing she was sad, Ray decided to hold her hand, saying that he would protect Rebecca with all his strength. So as his words made her excited, Maria rested her head on his body. But Rebecca spotted them from a corner. As she tried to sleep that night, the memory continued flashing across her mind, and she wondered if her sister was trying to snatch away her crush. That same night in Ray's dream, he was reliving the memory of Howard getting buried and was trying to hold Carol, hoping to make her feel better. But at that moment, he noticed that Rebecca was inside his dream. When she wondered who he really is, he tried revealing the truth, but a thunder cracked at the same time, completely drowning the sound of his voice. As he woke up, he began wondering if he imagined Rebecca's presence. But blood began to streak down from his eyes. The next day, when he came across Rebecca, he began telling her that he's never participated in a high school festival. But as she tried asking if he fought in the Far East War, she decided to abandon the question. On the first day of the cultural festival, Amelia served Ariane and Tiana cakes, carving a heart shape with ketchup. But Ariane was only interested in seeing Ray when Ray arrived as Lily. Everyone thought he must be a supermodel, but he knew that he was about to execute this perfectly as a professional. Outside the school, Carol was sad that she had to guard the building because she had naughty plans with Ray. As he served Maria her food, she was about to lose her mind, so Lily went on to activate her ultimate ability. How is a guy the best girl? Even Amelia thought he was terrifying as a girl, but Ariane wondered what type of terrifying place she walked in on. A few hours later, as Rebecca hesitantly walked next to Ray, she decided to grab onto his arm as they spent the day having fun together like a couple. Even when Clarice tried scaring them, Ray told her not to be scared of such a worthless, disgusting ghost. By the time the sun was setting, Ray was about to leave, but as she brought up the fireworks show that would happen tomorrow night, she decided to stop herself and walked back into her room. At sunset, while Maria was leaving the school, a mysterious lady appeared before her and told her that Rebecca would soon be killed. At the same time, Abby revealed the same news to Ray, but Lydia told him that they could rewrite her future right then. Rebecca's father arrived and confessed that he placed Rebecca's life in danger, so he begged him to save her. Meanwhile, in the forest, the sorcerer revealed that his plans would begin the next day. Realizing that Cruz would soon be awakened, but the giant glutton told him that his only desire was to consume Ray's soul. The following day, as Rebecca appeared before Ray, she told him that she has been waiting for him and asked him to watch over her sister. Having gotten engaged, she thought it was only a matter of time before she disappears forever and told him to protect Maria. So on the second day of the festival, Ray disguised as a girl again and tried to distract Maria. But the girl was too worried about her sister and decided to ask for his help. Outside, Rebecca was walking through an alley, but as Evan appeared before her, they teleported immediately. At the same time, Maria decided to leave, but Amelia wondered how Ray managed to win over such an ugly face. Ignoring her own useless face, Ray decided to run off. But his friends began wondering what could be wrong on the far side of the forest. Evan casted a large barrier over the entire area and told Rebecca that he was ready to take her eyes. Meanwhile, Ray had began slaying his way through the monsters, but wondered how many he could slay with only his inside code. Activated as a sorcerer launched a fireball towards him, it dispelled instantly, and Ray noticed Amelia's butterfly effect. At that moment, he discovered that his friends had followed him, and as Amelia told him that they came to support him, Ray slashed a monster. But as Edie sent a few sorcerers flying towards the sky, Al unleashed fire on them. At the same time, Alyssa unleashed a tornado to wipe away the monster, while Clarice cast lightning to obliterate them. So as Amelia rushed at Beast, she used it as a trampoline to rise 50 meters towards the sky before activating her butterfly effect. But Ray protected her at that instant. However, as he sensed that Ray had low prima material, the mysterious sorcerer told him to support Evan. So he began running up the mountain. Thinking they could take on the sorcerer, Al told Ray to find Rebecca, so he pulled off his disguise. The previous day, when Rebecca's father asked for his help, he had told him that Even was a curse on their bloodline, and her father told him that she would die if Cruz took over her body. Being the vessel of Cruz, Rebecca's birth had caused Maria to be born as an albino, and he was afraid that even Maria may be another vessel, but Ray hoped to reach him in time. Meanwhile, Glutton and the sorcerer had landed inside the barrier. But as the mask disintegrated, revealing Evan's face, the second Evan transformed into the mysterious lady. Her name was Liz, but as Ray spotted her face, he restrained her with dark sorcery. As he revealed that the sight of her worthless face has haunted his past memories, Evan began saying that he wants to kill her already. She had pretended she was him and had lived his life for more than a decade, protecting Rebecca's family from his plans. He thought that killing her would allow him to enter the gate of Akasha while using Rebecca's body as a vessel. But before he could capture her, Liz caused his flame to disperse and materialize before Rebecca. She told him that she wouldn't allow him to capture her and teleported her all the way back. So as she directed her hand towards him, she teleported him to a new dimension. Just then, Ree jumped inside the barrier. But Glutton thought he would finally get to devour his engramdas. Eager to devour his life force, Glutton flew towards him but bumped into a barrier. At that moment, as Liz introduced herself to Ray, she told him that she's the sorcerer of fabrication and said she would cause Rebecca to overheat, but asked him to seal her powers afterwards. After all, he was the only sorcerer who was able to control Chrono's lock and said that his soul resonates with her own. This was the cause of their shared dreams, and she revealed that Ray's eyes was dripping with blood because of his connection with Rebecca. At that moment, Glutton began to destroy the barrier, and as he was ready to attack Ray decided to release his Chronos Lock. As they charged at each other, dust erupted from their collision, but Liz entered into the portal. As Glutton broke Ray's sword, he destroyed it before it could reattach. But Liz had appeared inside the dimension, with both of them having been past lovers. Liz began telling Even that his hate couldn't make him grow stronger than her, but he told her that he wouldn't stop unless he kills her with his own hand. Activating the Dark Triad system, he decided to pierce his own brain with the serum, turning himself into a red-hot monster. The serum was a forbidden technique that stimulates the brain and amplifies the human dark side, temporarily growing the engram and causing an overheat that turns the sorcerer into a monster. But as he tried to eliminate her, his hand froze at that instant, and as Liz activated Apotheosis, a mighty energy consumed Evan. Liz revealed that she activated her self-destruction technique and told him that her engram creates a destructive factor that makes any technique self-destruct. At that moment, the energy consumed his body, leaving Evan completely drained. However, when he began to wonder if she was the strongest sorcerer, she told him that the Iceblade was the strongest of them all. She thought that if there was a single sorcerer that can rule the world, it would be him. In other words, the Iceblade Sorcerer shall rule the world. Meanwhile, in the forest, Ray's friends had grown exhausted from fighting off the monster, but they realized that they had all grown stronger ever since their exercise in the Kafka forests. At that moment, the monsters began to reawaken as demons, but as they launched energy blasts, icicle blades destroyed them at that instant. Just then, Lydia and the other ladies arrived, and Carla told them that they would be taking over the battle. So as they began charging at the demons, Carla ascended towards the sky, an unleashed flash of lightning obliterating the demons before her. Immediately, Abby extended her blades, unleashing a mighty flame around her. And as she launched fire dragons towards the sky, she consumed 1,000 demons at the same time. When it was Carol's turn, she cast a love barrier around her, trapping the demons in a love spell. But as she released a terrible noise, it completely obliterated the demons in a mighty smoke cloud. So to erase them completely, Lydia summoned icicle blades, and combining them into one giant sword, she annihilated all the demons. But Abby cast a barrier to protect them from turning into ice. At the same time, Glutton began thinking that Ray was weak, having noticed that he had only been defending against his attacks. When Ray told him to attack with his greatest technique, Glutton decided to awaken his full power, activating his ultimate body enhancement spell that launched Ray out of the smoke, sending him crashing on the ground. At the sight of this, Maria began to blame Rebecca, saying that she caused this chaos by deciding not to reveal that she was in danger. She thought the situation could have been saved from growing worse and blamed her for being selfish and concealing her emotions. While Glutton was ready to eliminate Ray, he seized his throat and shoved him into the wall. But when he tried devouring his engram, Ray activated deceleration, and as he pierced Glutton's foot, it began to freeze at that instant. So he stabbed his hand and managed to create some space between them. But when Glutton tried to end him with a blow, his arm began to freeze. And as he realized that Ray's blade didn't break, this time Ray activated Pandora, causing the ice to spread across his entire body until he was completely frozen. But having grown exhausted, Ray fell on his knees and luckily activated Chronos Locrite before falling unconscious. When Rebecca tried to help him, Maria held her back and continued saying that she was responsible for this chaos. She said she's always had it easy and thought she has never cared about anyone else because she was the eldest daughter. Having heard enough, Rebecca told her to shut her mouth, saying that she was going to sacrifice her entire life for her. But as Maria grew angry at her words, she smacked her face. But Rebecca took her down immediately, saying that her entire life has been a facade. Before smacking her face to reset her brain, she told her that she's always been a rebellious bratson, but said she's always loved her as her precious little sister. As she began to cry, her sorcerer's eyes activated and her powers began to overheat. So as Ray woke up, he noticed the orange barrier would at least materialize with Evan's body and told him to save Rebecca. At the same time, Amelia and the others arrived, but Lydia warned them to stay away from the girl. As Ray penetrated Rebecca's barrier so as he appeared before her, he told her that he respects her bravery. That night, while Rebecca was staring at the night sky, having recovered from her overheating, Amelia appeared behind her, telling her to stay away from her man. She began saying that they share something special and would be spending the night together so that she could properly thank him and appreciate his long sword. But Amelia began saying she's appreciated his sword already and has even spent an entire night with him in her bed. However, Rebecca revealed that she had accepted Ruwood of multiple women since she believed that love always wins. Unwilling to surrender anyway, Amelia told her that she would fight for the love of her life. But Rebecca told her that her love was far stronger. To To welcome the challenge, Amelia decided to offer her hand, saying she wouldn't lose. So as Rebecca shook her hand to accept the challenge, she vowed not to lose either. Just then, Clarice and Alyssa appeared before them, saying that it was unfair. But Rebecca revealed that she had the capacity to accept them. At that moment, Ray appeared, and as they were happy to all see him, the fireworks began going off in the sky. The following day, Ray visited Howard's grave, realizing that although he had been lost after Howard left his life, he was able to find a normal world where he had people he cared about and people who cared about him. Thanks for watching. Want more anime recaps? Subscribe to channels and turn on notification bell. See you later. Watch those next videos.